Hi everyone. Welcome to Hope Hub. Hope Hub is a community that I built for widows. I too am a widow. And it's a community where people can get to know each other, support each other, join support groups, meet really cool people like my guest Kelly, find resources, attend events. For me, I did a lot of Googling when I lost my husband to try and find a lot of different things. And so I tried to create something that's all in one. And I'm so glad that you are here and that you've found Hope Hub. I'm going to have this great conversation. So Kelly, I know Kelly because my first widow retreat that I did last summer, she was one of my session leaders. As many of you probably have seen on Hope Hub, I'm actually hosting my third retreat this May. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's super intimate. You really get to know the people. You really create a community, and Kelly got to see that firsthand. Kelly is a hilarious comedian who is also a widow, and she'll share her story. She is a viral TED Talk speaker. She has written a book called My Husband Is Not a Rainbow, The Beautifully Awful, Hilarious Truth About Life, Love, Grief, and Loss. I always remember the My Husband's Not a Rainbow piece of it, but it's the second part I have to read from the screen. Sorry about that.
Long title.
And the really cool thing that's happening like right now is that she's a part of a documentary that was produced around Camp Widow, which is an amazing organization, and it is winning all kinds of awards right now. And you can see it online and also streaming on PBS. And so that was me talking a lot. I know I tend to do that. I am going to turn it over to Kelly and welcome. If you could just share with us a little bit about your story, we would all really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing to be able to talk to the community and to talk to you. And before I share about me, I just want to say real quick that your retreats are amazing, and anybody
Thank
and
you.
everybody who thinks they need some support and some community and some friendship should definitely check them out because it was an incredible experience being one of the speakers, I guess you would call it. It's
Yeah,
so informal that I hate using the word speaker
I know.
because the retreat is so informal in a good way, in the very best of ways, and it's more like a community of friendship that all have the same thing in common, and so it was a great experience.
It's like why I hate calling these expert interviews because that seems
Yeah,
really formal too. I've tried on a couple other ways and they haven't worked. So it's more
right.
of a conversation.
Yeah, and it also sounds weird to be like, I'm an expert in grief. Like, who
Right.
wants to be a grief expert? Like,
Right. Exactly.
you want to talk
Exactly. What does
about
that
death?
really
Come to me.
mean? Yeah.
So I'm Kelley Lynn, as you said, and I am originally from Groton, Massachusetts, and I lived in New York City area, all the boroughs, pretty much my whole adult life for about 25 years, and now currently I'm in Albany, New York, and I became widowed in 2011. July of 2011. I was married 4 years and 9 months, not that I was counting, but we were very, very happy. We were just starting our lives together. His name was Don Shepard, and he was an amazing person, is an amazing person, an amazing soul. He was a paramedic, and I was a professor teaching acting and comedy at the time in New York, and we lived in New Jersey. And he went to work one ordinary Wednesday morning, and he never came home. And he had a massive cardiac arrest at age 46, and I was 39 and suddenly widowed. And, as you know, I was like, WTF? What do I do with this? And had absolutely no clue what to do, where to go, who to talk to. Anybody I knew that was widowed, I didn't know anybody that was widowed, but the two or three people I had heard of that might be widowed were in their 80s or 70s. I had nothing in common with them, and I didn't know who to talk to, where to go. And eventually I built up a community myself because, like you, I started Googling things, right? I started Googling, how do I find other widowed people? How do I find friends who are widowed? Things like that, support groups. Went on Facebook a lot, started looking, searching for things, and eventually wrote a book, as you mentioned, about it, about what it's really like to go through this, the absolute brutal, honest truth, because it is hard. It's the hardest thing you will ever do. And I like to be brutally honest about things. And so I kind of took my comedy as a comedian after this happened and turned it more dark and turned it more real. Because before this happened, I talked about normal everyday things in my comedy. I talked about, 1980s music and song lyrics and observing commercials that were funny and stuff like that. And so after Dawn died, I couldn't talk about anything else except what it's like to be a widow. And there's so much humor in that. I have found dark humor oftentimes, but humor in the way people react to death, in the things you have to do after someone dies. There's humor everywhere. And so that's what I do. That's my story. And since then, it's been 14 years. So I have done quite a bit since then in my personal life. So I'm a widow. I got remarried years later, and then I got divorced. So I'm also a divorced person. And then currently I am in a relationship again with a wonderful person who is a widower. And that brought me to Albany, New York. So here I am. So starting over again and again and again.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for being so open and honest. And there's a lot of people in this community that are very new. There's a lot of people who have um some time under their belt, talk about saying something in a real way. I mean, how else
Yeah,
real can you say that? And I think, your story gives a lot of people hope. I respect everybody's place in this world. And for those who are like, I'm never gonna, I don't want to ever find love,
yeah,
after my husband, that I completely respect. And then there's people, and I
yeah.
actually fall in this category like you, where I'm like, I'm very young. I'd like to still have a partner in my life. And there is hope to find that. I was actually laughing in my head as you were saying, it's not funny at all, but as you were saying you were widowed and then divorced, and I was like, oh, I did that one backwards. I got divorced
Right.
first, and then I was widowed.
I feel like I did it backwards. Like who's
Um,
widowed at 39 and then
yeah.
gets remarried and then divorced? It's like, how
And
is my
sometimes I
life?
say, like, I do date now, and sometimes I'll
Yeah.
be like, I'm like a triple threat here. Like, no one
Yeah.
wants to
Yeah.
marry me.
I know I say the
So
same thing. I'm like, I'm almost afraid. Like, what? Okay, I've been widowed, I've been divorced. What is possibly going to happen
yeah,
next?
they
Like, I
say
don't want
things
to know.
happen in threes. Like, I don't really know about this.
I don't want to know. But let
But
me let me also say, just because I think it's important to kind of say and point out that it took me 5 or 6 years to get to the point where I even wanted to date. So I was not one of those people that was like, I want to find love again. I was totally the opposite. Totally. I was like convinced I would never want to date again. I was convinced Dawn was the love of my life and that's it. End of story. Don't even talk to me about that. And I was very, very adamant about it. And then, years passed and I slowly started to shift like, maybe I could have coffee with someone. That's not going to hurt anybody. I mean, it literally was that slow of a shift, because for me, it was like about trying to find that place in my heart and soul where I didn't feel married to him anymore. Like I felt like I was cheating at first for the first few years. I couldn't even date, I couldn't consider it because I still felt married. And it was a lot of grief counseling and a lot of writing and a lot of processing before I didn't feel that way, and I was able to kind of shift my relationship with Don into something that made more sense now that he's not here on earth with me.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that too, because I do think, everybody kind of has their feelings about it.
Yeah.
And none of them are wrong.
No.
Everybody, you are entitled to how you feel about your next chapters in your life,
No.
and just being open to shift and change, and being open-minded. I think
Yes.
is really what I heard from you right now. Going to the humor and the comedy part of it, I think that there are probably people who roll their eyes and say, who can find humor in like death? Like, that's horrible. Like, are you an awful person?
Right.
Which you are not. You are an amazing person. And, it's something that, and we've talked about this, and I talk about this a lot in my communities. There's this, this very real thing that you can feel two things at once.
Yes.
And, I know for me, and I speak about this openly, when my husband died, we had some really tough times in our marriage, and I thought I was a horrible person because there was a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of therapy to learn that I could feel sad and relieved at the same time. It
Right.
also took a lot, and I hear this a lot from widows who are like, I had a really good day today. And they say it in a way that's like, am I a horrible person because I had a good day?
Yeah, that
No,
guilt.
no, you can have joy and happiness and still feel completely lost and sad and traumatized. And so,
Yeah.
that's where I kind of find the humor is that you can laugh while you're crying.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. And, your ability to be so real and so raw about this helps so many people. It's, I'm very inspired by that. And I try and do the same thing. Like,
Thank you.
I did a keynote a couple of months ago, and I started by saying, I'm going to say some things that you would be embarrassed to tell your best friend. Because there is no filter where when it comes to I will tell you anything you want
Yeah.
to know at any given time. And so
Same here. And I
it,
think that's refreshing for a lot of people because so many people put this sort of plastic around the whole grief experience. And I just feel like, why talk if you're not going to tell the truth? Right. That's how
right.
I've always felt about it.
Right, absolutely. So while we're here, I'm going to make you tell two stories that got to hear. I actually told you about one of them that I was going to ask. I didn't tell you the other one, so surprise.
Okay.
Although I know you've told it before, but when we were at the retreat, I think there were two stories that had us all in stitches laughing that were so relatable. And the first is the Verizon story, which has become famous thanks to the Camp Widow documentary, and the second is. Why did you title your book, My Husband is Not a Rainbow?
Okay.
So you can start with either one. I'll give you the option.
Okay. So I'll start with the second one. So the reason I titled my book "My Husband Is Not a Rainbow" is because when he died, and this is a common grief experience. When he died, there were a ton of people that would say things, that would say comments that were insensitive or that were just weird, and it's because we're all told they don't know what else to say, right? So, but my thing is like, okay, well, let's teach them what to say, right? And so I had all these kind of fantasies in my head about what I would say in return to all the kind of dumb, insensitive comments that people would make. And one of the comments that someone made was that he was a rainbow. And so it was this woman that had come over to my apartment, and she had worked with Don the week that he died. He actually had his heart attack in a pet rescue center. He was on his day off from being a paramedic, and he was volunteering. He loved animals, and he was helping out with dogs and cats and adoption at an adoption center. And so that's where he had his heart attack. And so the woman that worked there with him came to my apartment, and she was helping me with our two cats. And she said to me, Kelley, I have to tell you something. I went to Don's funeral the other day, and I saw it was raining, and then the sun came out, and I was driving in the middle of New Jersey, and I was on the way to his funeral. And it was a miracle, Kelley. You wouldn't believe what I saw. I saw a rainbow. It was a rainbow in the sky. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it was your husband. Don't you understand? It was Don. He's a rainbow now. He's a rainbow. And he's looking down at us, and he's saying, oh, don't cry, don't cry. And I was trying so hard not to laugh when she said that. Like, I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if she thinks he's a rainbow, fine. But I just know my husband, and I was like, he would never in a million years come back as a rainbow. Like, he would just make fun of that. He would be like, no, I'm not a freaking rainbow, you know? And it was in New Jersey, and he hated New Jersey. He moved there because I was there and because, our love, and I had to be near there because I was an actor and stuff. So he was like, I'll move there to be with you so you can go on your auditions and everything. But he did not like New Jersey. So Don would never be a rainbow in New Jersey, of all places. He would not give New Jersey the honor of his presence in the sky and his beauty. He wouldn't do it. He would be a guitar, he was a guitar person. He loved playing guitar. So he would be like a kick-ass guitar solo in an Aerosmith song. That's what he
Right,
would come
right,
back,
right, right. Yeah,
right? Not a rainbow.
right.
So that's kind of where the title came from, is this whole concept of like, my husband's not a rainbow. He's all these other things, and I see him in so many ways and feel him in so many ways, but not as a rainbow.
Right. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that like, while there is the comedic side to that,
Yeah.
there is, also the reality that we all see our husbands in many different ways and feel him
Yes.
in different ways that are more appropriate to who they are as a person. And yes, of
Exactly.
course, there's all this, there's a cardinal outside, or
Right.
the whole, number kind of angel number thing,
Yeah.
or,
Feathers,
and
pennies, all
you
that.
know what? Like lots of people see, dragonflies, ladybugs. There's lots of symbolic things that people see their
Hmm.
husbands in. But as you said, he was not a rainbow in New Jersey. And there's definitely like, I think about it too, and I'm like, Jack is not a dragonfly. Like, that's just weird.
Right. Right.
But
And
that's my opinion, and that's okay.
yeah,
And you know what? If you see your husband in a dragonfly, like that is absolutely beautiful. I just
absolutely.
don't. I just
Yeah,
don't.
and
So,
the funny thing that happened as a result of that happening, of her saying that, is that it's almost become this like revolution in a way in the widowed community, because I'm a speaker and I do a lot of speaking engagements and I wrote this book and all this stuff. And so I tell this story often. And so months later, years later, I have oftentimes come home and I'll see, like on my Facebook or somewhere public on Instagram or something, people that know me, who have seen me speak, they will post actual pictures from somewhere that they've been, and they're taking pictures of actual rainbows. And they're like, here's Don in Nevada. We saw him yesterday. Here he is in Texas. And so it's become this like joke that every single time somebody posts something like that on my page, I laugh like crazy and I smile and I think of him. So because he's not a rainbow, he is a rainbow.
right, right,
It's
right,
so
right,
funny. Like
right,
it cracks me up, and I love it every time my widowed friends do that and they post him as a rainbow and they write to me. It's
right,
great.
right, right. Okay, we're gonna shift into the Verizon story, and I think that everyone can relate when you call the cable company, the phone company. I just had this happen with probably shouldn't call out brands, but with a streaming service. We'll call it a streaming service where I wanted to change it from my husband's email to mine. And he's been
Yep.
gone almost 2 years now. And they wanted a death certificate. And I was like, you're a television streaming service. You don't need a desk. Like, I'm just asking you to change an email. Like, we're not like,
Yeah.
making big thing, Social Security office, like medical insurance. Get it. Totally get it. You can have a death certificate. But a streaming service, I was like, what's wrong with you? And you know what? I
Yeah.
actually canceled it. I was like, I
Yeah.
can find someone else.
Good for
And
you.
so that, I thought of you when that happened. That was just like a month or so ago because of your Verizon story. And I'll let you kind of go from here because it's
Okay. So just so we don't give Verizon a bad name, it was
oh
actually
right.
AT&T.
Okay, I'll stop calling. That's me. Yes. A phone company, just like I did
Yes,
a phone company. Okay.
a phone company with three letters.
Right.
Um, I call them widow chores, the things we have to all do after our person dies, right? They're the widow chores, the red tape issues, like changing passwords, changing cell phones, all that stuff you just talked about. And one of those for me was I had to call AT&T, and T, and I wanted to change the account that was under both of our names. Um, but his name I think was the principal name or something,
Mhm.
and it was the family plan by AT&T, so it was like me and my husband on this family plan for our cell phones. And so about a week after he died, my mom was helping me out at my apartment, and these were one of the chores we had to do. So she called AT&T first because she was trying to help me out. I was very emotional. It was a sudden death. And she called and they said, we need to talk to Kelley. So she said, okay, you're going to have to deal with this. So I got on the phone and I said, my husband just died last week and I'm just trying to change our cell phone plan in so that it's in my name. And the woman said, okay, ma'am, we can do that for you. We can help you with that. That's not a problem here at AT&T, and we are so sorry for your loss. However, we do need to speak with the person whose name is on the account, Mr. Don Shepard. We do need to speak with him in order to make that change. He literally said that in that accent, and very, very Southern and very happy. And I said, but I'm calling because he's not here. He's dead and he can't come to the phone right now. So you're going to have to talk to me. And she just like repeated the same script over and over. She's like, I do understand your loss, ma'am. I understand he's not here, but we do need to speak with the name who is on the account. In order to make this change happen, we need the authorization of the person on the account. And that is done. I'm like, yeah, I know his name. Saying his name over and over is not going to change the fact that he's dead. And so she just wouldn't stop. She kept repeating the same thing. So finally, I was like, okay, you know what? Hold on. I was getting very mad and frustrated and emotional. And I was like, hold on. You know what? Dawn, are you here? And I'm like, I come back to the phone. I'm like, nope, still dead. Can't come to the phone. And she just wasn't getting it, right? She wasn't getting it. And so eventually I just got really angry. And this is why I told the first story first, so that this one would make more sense. And I said to her, I said, you know what? My husband is not here anymore. I don't know how else to put it to you. He no longer breathes air. He's not here. He can't come to the phone. You know what? My husband is a rainbow. He's a rainbow. He's in New Jersey and he's sitting up there in the sky and you can see him on rainy days after it rains and then the sun comes out. You can find him. So go there
Oh
yourself
my
and talk
gosh.
to him and tell him to put the phone in my name. Okay? He's a rainbow in Tonelay Avenue in New Jersey. Go get him. Go see. And she didn't know what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. I started flipping out on the
Poor
phone.
woman.
This poor woman, she's like, okay, she didn't understand. So then my mom grabs the phone and went into like mom mode, and she was like, my daughter just lost her husband. It was like this Darth Vader voice that I've never heard in my life come out of my mom. But in that moment, she was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mom, and she was like, my daughter lost her. You changed the name on the account. Do it now. And they did it. So it took mom to come to my rescue and it happened.
Oh
And I
my
was a puddle
God.
of
But
tears
yes,
over
like,
everything.
yes, yes, yes. Like, it's like, and on one hand, these people are trained to like read these scripts. And,
Yeah,
I mean, how many times have you asked for a manager and they're like, sorry,
right.
there's no manager. And I actually, part of this is really, really hits home for me too, because Jack, was so good at getting to the core of things. Like I remember like a conversation he had with Sirius once, and he was basically like, "You have a manager. You work for somebody. Who is that person?" "I'm sorry, there's no manager here." And I remember sitting next to him on the couch, and whatever he needed done, and I looked at him, I go, "That was awesome." Like
That was amazing.
that was
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah, no, it's just yes,
It's so
there
ridiculous.
is the
It's
there
so
is the
absurd.
it's absurd. But you know what? Like it's kind of going back to what we were just saying. People probably have a little bit of a visceral reaction when you talk about humor and death and the dark side of things, but there's the humor in it.
There's the humor.
There is thinking of, I love the word chores. I usually use tactics, which is never the right word, or logistics. chores
Yeah.
is a good one. I'm going to use that from now on. But
Yeah.
there are those chores, and there are those people out there that just don't understand, and
Right. And that's where the
and make
humor comes
things
from.
so hard.
Yeah.
I had I had a brainstorm with some widows as I was building Hope Hub about what kind of experts we should have and what kind of resources. And this woman, it's very funny. She said, "You know what? We should find a computer hacker." And I was
Mm,
like, "A computer hacker?" And she goes, there should be a professional. I mean, computer hackers ruin our lives. Like they get into our accounts, they like, send out spam, like they steal all of our information. What if
yep.
we could find someone that could get our husband's passwords to everything?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. Because
That is
that is,
genius.
we all can and agree, like that's one of the hardest things is when they are the primary account owners to so many things. And
Mhm.
like, yes, there's LastPass and some of these other things, but if they don't have that, like you can't get into the bank account, you can't get
Nope.
into the credit card company, you can't get into the cable
Nope.
account. And, again, you hear over and over again, well, what was their password? I don't know their password, or I would tell it to you. So
Exactly.
I loved the can we find, and I had an IT person that I was friendly with, and I actually asked him, I like was like, so do you think that this? And he was like, no, you can't do that. He's like, it would cost you millions and millions of dollars, first of all, to have somebody come out and say, I'm a computer hacker, I can help you. So anyway, but yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing those because I think that they address two very common things, and that's the symbolism that people decide for us
Yep.
of how we see our loved ones in the afterlife, and then also just the frustration that comes with having to do those chores, and how, if we kind of think about the ridiculous things that people say to us,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
it's kind of funny. I mean,
Yeah. And
it's frustrating. Like you said, you're emotional and you're angry and you like want to like rip the phone off, but
yep.
you can find the humor in it. Just like you can
And
be sad and happy, or you can have joy and frustration. It's all of those feelings can
And
happen.
I think like the humor for me anyway, but I think this could be true for a lot of people if they would allow it in, is that the humor can help you to get through this in a much healthier way. Because I started out being so angry,
Mm,
like angry at everything. Why is he dead? Why is this happening to me? Why did it happen to us? Why didn't we have more time? 4 years together, all of that. And then by finding humor in it, I was much less angry and I was much more emotional, but not angry.
yeah,
And just, finding the absurdity in all of these things. The fact that he, got jury duty 3 times after he died. The fact that, when you go to put his ashes in the on the beach, they come back in your face and they blow it. Like it's not like in the movies. I mean, there's
right.
so many things in the aftermath of this terrible thing that are funny,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
can help you to get through it, and I talk about a lot that I don't believe in right or wrong when it comes to grief, but I do believe in healthy and unhealthy, and there's a healthy way to grieve and there's an unhealthy way to grieve, and I think a healthy way to grieve includes laughter and includes
yeah.
humor.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So what are you up to now? Tell us what you're doing besides
What
being in Albany with your new boyfriend, which is
I
good for you.
know. And yeah, so so yeah, post divorce last year, I said to myself, if I'm going to do this love thing a third time, I need it to be with somebody who gets it, who understands, and somebody who has been through this horrificness, right? And so I found a widower who is an amazing person, and he happens to live in Albany, New York. And so I packed up my stuff after a year of dating him and moved here, and here we are, and I'm very happy and starting over again and again and again. And we will see what happens because life does not guarantee us anything, right? We both know that. But I'm
Absolutely.
very happy. I am a grief counselor. I do appointments anywhere and for anyone on, virtually. So can meet with anyone at any time. I do speaking engagements still. I'm doing book events locally and things like that. And yeah, this Camp Widow documentary is Such an amazing thing. It's a 15-minute short. It's a film short, so it's 15 minutes long. You can go online anywhere and find it. It was done by PBS, and we recently won at the DAM Short Film Festival for 2026, Best Documentary of 2026. So, and that AT&T story is featured in the documentary. So I'm very proud of that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful film that sort of highlights not only Camp Widow and what that program is about, but just a little slice of what it's like to be widowed and how important community is when you are widowed.
I think there's a little bit of irony because people probably hear Camp Widow and also
Yeah,
have a little bit of a visceral reaction like Camp
yeah.
Widow, like how ridiculous
What
is
is that?
that? And
Yeah,
yet I know it's like such an incredible organization that
it
helps,
is.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every year. And so,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there is, again, finding joy in one of the most horrible things that can happen to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like your retreats, right?
Yeah.
It's a community. It's a community of people that gather together for a weekend, and there's, grief workshops and presentations, and that's what I do for Soaring Spirits International. They're the organization that does Camp Widow.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing just to be with people, as you know, who get it and who understand you and who don't give you that pity look. I call it the side turn. Oh,
Oh.
and they give you that pity look and then they don't
Yeah.
know what to say. And it's wonderful to not have that pity look and to
Right.
have somebody that instead says, yeah, me too. I totally get that. Oh my God, look, this is what happened to me when my husband died. And
Right.
it's, it's amazing, to have that. And those people often become very good friends in your future. I know they have for me over the years.
Me too. I always say my first support group that I ran here, in the town that I live in. I mean, I still go to dinner with some of the women.
Yeah,
One of them is actually coming on vacation with. We just like did the, she's
yeah,
like, what are you doing for April break? And I told her, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna come with my daughter. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
yeah, yeah. Some
So,
of my best friends are other widowed people and just people who have been through some stuff in life too,
yeah,
people who have
it's
been through
exactly.
loss.
It doesn't have to be, widows, but everybody
Right.
goes through stuff in life. And when you're, I say, a problem shared is a problem cut in half. And it's
Yeah.
why I do what I do, and it's why I speak the way that I do. And I always say if there's one person in any sort of audience, whether it's, an audience of two or an audience of 400 that says like I feel seen, like I feel like I get it, then I'm a happiest person alive. So
Me
anyway, well,
too.
thank you so much for coming on. This has been so
Sure.
much fun as it always is. I can't wait for everyone to watch it,
I
and be
know
able
you
to laugh
too.
because everyone needs laughter in their life. And so thank
Everyone needs
you for
laughter.
giving that to people and for being so raw and honest because sometimes it takes someone else to say something that you're thinking. Um,
Yeah.
to say like I'm not the only one. And so,
Yeah.
that's always a really helpful thing too, to feel like you're not crazy. Um,
Totally. Totally. And
yeah,
I think the times we need laughter most of all is when we're struggling and when we're in pain. And that the best laughter, in my opinion, comes from pain most of the time. It comes from pain.
and
So
it's honesty. It's
it's
honesty
honesty.
too. So
Yeah,
anyway, well, thank
absolutely.
you again so much for having or
You're welcome.
for having me. Thank you for coming on and talking to me.
You're welcome.
Newbie.
You're
Talk
doing
about being
great.
honest. Like let's be honest here. This is still new for me, but it's been such a joy to talk to such amazing people like yourself. And so, thank you so
Thank you.
much, and we will connect soon.